What up, team? Here I am today reading Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Rees-Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. Yes! So, I've been very excited about reading this one. This is a story about Simon. Just a little disclaimer for everyone. All of the videos that I do will spoil the books I've previously read because I'm not afraid to talk about them. I'm not afraid to go into spoiler-filled details. That's why I've done them in this specific order, because that's how I wanted to do it. So if you have not read any of the Mortal Instruments, any of the Infernal Devices, the Bane Chronicles, or the Shadowhunter Codex, best to click off now until you have read any of them, because they will contain spoilers. So this story features Simon at the end of the Mortal Instruments in City of Heavenly Fire. Simon went from a vampire to a human and lost all of his memories of Clary and the Shadowhunter gang. Then he got offered the chance to turn into a Shadowhunter. And this is Simon's story of him becoming a Shadowhunter and going to the Shadowhunter Academy to train to be a Shadowhunter. I think throughout all of this, Simon still doesn't have his memories. He just knows that he was best friends with Clary, he was dating Isabel, but he doesn't really understand how any of that happened, how it came to be. He doesn't really remember. So it's about Simon kind of rediscovering his life, rebuilding his life, and ascending to become a member of the Shadowhunter world, which I'm really excited for. It's a book about Simon. If you have watched any of the others, which I think you should have by now if you are here, because, spoilers, I love Simon. And, in honour of that, my lovely friend Jade from Paperback to Hardback sent me some bookmarks. I'll put a picture up here somewhere. She sent me bookmarks of all of the Shadowhunter gang. This one is Simon, therefore I'm going to be using Simon as the bookmark for this one. I'm excited. There is a bookmark in there that is basically marking off the next story because it's a short story collection. Each story is very long. Like, I think this first story goes up to page 72. That's long because there's no chapter breaks either. That's literally it, a 72-page book. So I'm going to need this one for during the story when I have to pause, and then the big bookmark is to let me know where the next story begins. Yay. So I'm going to get straight into this one. I think there are only 10, whereas the Bane Chronicles, which was also a short story collection, had 11. So that's great. And I love this. It says at the front, for all of those looking for or looking to be a hero like Simon, here's to you. I'm like, yay, because Simon is my life. So, as I said, there are 10. The first one is Welcome to the Shadowhunter Academy, and I am really excited to get into this one. This is by Cassandra Clare and Sarah Rees-Brennan. I am ready. Right, I will just catch up with you guys when I finish this book and let you know. Just so you know, I'm going to do it in the same format as I did the Bane Chronicles. I'm going to give each individual book a rating, and then at the end I will work out the mean average to give the book overall an average. So, chat to you guys when I've finished. Welcome to Shadowhunter Academy. Hey team. So I've just finished the first book in Tales from Shadowhunter Academy, which is Welcome to Shadowhunter Academy, is that right? Yes. This was a really nice story. It followed Simon as he began his adventures at Shadowhunter Academy. He said goodbye to his family, and it was a good introduction because you got to see, when it comes to Simon and his family, you got to see that pain that was still with Simon, because when he was a vampire and his mother found out, she threw him out, and you can still see that even though he doesn't have memories of that, he still resents her for doing that, and you get to see how that has affected him and his relationship. Simon's told his mother that he's going off to a military school just because he knows he needs to get away from his mother because he doesn't feel comfortable around her anymore, and it was really sad but really understandable because you got to see how that affected him. You also got to see his relationship with Clary and Jason, Isabel, and it hurt reading it, if I'm honest, because you got to see Simon's relationship with Clary and how she sees him, but you got to see this from his perspective of him not knowing this girl, just knowing that they were best friends, but he doesn't remember that, and seeing her crying and him blaming himself because he's the reason she's crying, so he's putting a lot of blame on himself. Same with Isabel. it's also really funny to see that he thinks him and Jace are best friends, and Jace is really taking advantage of that, and that was funny. And then we went to Shadowhunter Academy, and we got to really see some new characters, which I thought was quite interesting. We got to see the bias of pure blood Shadowhunters as opposed to mundanes, and that was really interesting to see. So we got to see Simon treated like royalty because of his involvement in the Mortal War, but Simon sees himself more as a mundane coming into the world rather than a pure blood hero, because from Simon's perspective, he is not pure blood, he is a mundane, and whilst they're treating him with all the privileges of a pure blood Shadowhunter, he is from the other side. So you get to see that impact that it has on him, seeing that bias, because Simon decides where he wants to be, and I thought that was lovely. It's really in keeping with his character. It made me love him more. My issue with this story as a whole, like I did with the Bane Chronicles, I can't rate these in comparison to how they add to the original story, because this is set after, whereas the Bane Chronicles was set between and before. So with this one, I'm kind of rating this one on my personal enjoyment and how it works with the story that we already know. Do the characters feel as though they've changed drastically in between? Is it a problem with writing? Do they feel like the characters have come back? Do they feel as though they've done a natural progression? Things like that. And I thought in terms of characters, this one was very spot on, and I really enjoyed seeing new characters. We have a character called George Lovelace, and he is from the Lovelace family, who is from Jessamine from the Infernal Devices, and I really like that because you get a little throwback there. It was really interesting and a fun story. I wasn't immediately hooked. I have said that as a big issue with one of these stories, because they're always really long, and the chapters... because the story's only 70 pages, there's no chapters in between, so it's just like reading a full 70-page chapter, which is a bit ridiculous for me. But I enjoyed the story, and I think I've convinced myself into liking it more. Because when I started filming, I was originally coming in with, this is a 3-star, because it was good, it wasn't amazing, but now I'm like, I actually enjoyed this more after talking about it and after really kind of discussing my feelings than I initially thought I did. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I don't think it deserves a 4 yet, because a 4-star for me is, I'm really, really satisfied, and I'm not. I thought it was a good introduction, but I can't wait to read more. I can't wait to find out more. But it wasn't the strongest start. I wasn't immediately hooked, blah blah blah. But it was really good. So this first one was a 3.5. Simon approves. I love my little Simon bookmark. So the next story is The Lost Herondale, and that is Cassandra Clare and Robin Wasserman. And I don't know what this one's about. I don't know who The Lost Herondale is. I don't know anything, but I'm excited. And I will chat to you guys when I finish the second story. See you later. So I've just finished book 2 of Tales from Shadowhunter Academy, which is The Lost Herondale. I like this story. I feel as though the Herondale part of it did not come in until right near the end, and I want that story to carry on. Like, that was really interesting. The fact that there is a child out there somewhere that could be part of the Herondale line and not know about it. I'm like, who is this? Who is it? Who is it? Is there a theory that maybe it's Simon, because they did say he lived in the mundane world? That'd be so ironic. I would love it to be Simon. But I really want them to carry on with that. I'm very intrigued to see if they carry on that story for starters. And then if they do, what are they going to do with it? If they leave that story like that, I'd be really upset. Like, they did leave that on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. We got a nice little snippet from Clary there, and we got a nice little cameo from Isabel, which I really liked. But yeah, that story's left me wanting more, which is really, really good. But I'm scared that we're not going to get more, which will kind of ruin that story for me. So I don't know how to rate this one. I feel like because it was such a good story and it really did leave me wanting more, I want to give it a 5 star because I felt as though it really added to this world. It gave us a little extra bit of intrigue. And we got to see a lot more from Simon's personality. Like, we've known how it's affected him, but we got to see him in action with a vampire and how he couldn't even act in a particular way because of how it affects him. Like, he couldn't kill the vampire because of his memories of being a vampire and things like that. So we got to see a lot of that, like, in action, and I really liked that. But yeah, this intrigue, it's left me wanting a lot more. And if we don't get more, is this going to be tainted? But then at the same time, should I just rate this book based off that feeling and not the fact that it'll carry on? I think I'll give this story a 4.5 for now. And I'll see how I feel when it carries on. But it was a very good story. I think I've been left with fear that I'm not going to find out what happened and who this lost Herondale is, more than excitement and happiness and satisfaction. That's the thing. There's a little bit of satisfaction missing because I'm not sure if we're going to find out. So that's why it's only a 4.5, but still, obviously, a really good rating. So yeah, I'm intrigued. Now, our next story is The Whitechapel Fiend, and that is Cassandra Clare and Maureen Johnson. Don't know what that one's about. I'm excited to find out, so I will just update you guys after I've read it. See you in a bit. Hey guys, I am just editing my vlog now for this, and the clip for The Whitechapel Fiend, which is book 3, is drastic. Like, I can't hear anything. Now, granted, my laptop is extremely quiet, so when it's being played normally, when it's on YouTube or when it's being played on my phone, it's probably not that bad. But in comparison to other clips, it's terrible. So I'm just going to refilm it now and just basically give you a bit of an update rather than put up dodgy footage. Basically, The Whitechapel Fiend is a story where Simon is in class and Tessa joins him as a guest lecturer. Tessa then begins to tell the story of a time that she and Will and Gabriel Lightwood were all looking for Jack the Ripper because they found that Jack the Ripper was not actually Jack the Ripper. He was actually a demon. And it was so good to actually go back. It was really interesting. I find the whole Jack the Ripper concept very interesting anyway. So the idea that they took that and put it in the Shadowhunter world fascinated me. It was really, really good. And then to kind of top it off, we got a Jace cameo when it was Simon's section doing training, and I loved that. Overall, it was just a great story. I gave it 5 stars. This was the story I was needing. I felt as though the first 2 were fine. They were excellent. I really enjoyed them. But this one was just, it gave me that 5-star feel that I was desperately needing. And I loved that it did that. And it was so perfect. It came in at exactly the right time. It made me really happy. Absolutely loved it. As a result of that, I did give the story before, which the one you've just seen, a 4. I did say it was going to be a 4.5 for now, and now I've read a 5-star story. I was like, yes, there's a drastic difference between those 2 stories. So I dropped the second story down to a 4. But I really loved this one. But that's it. I just wanted to give you that update. Sorry the footage was really dodgy, so you didn't really get to see my initial reaction from the second I read it, but this was as best I could do. I could either give you footage where I was talking so quietly, even I couldn't hear it during editing to tell if anything was wrong, or I could refilm it like this at the expense of not being my immediate reaction, but it'd be better audio. And really, I didn't say anything different. The only difference is this is a bit later on, but I still really loved it. Excellent 5-star story. I can't remember what's next, so I'm not even going to give an introduction, but just watch. Just carry on watching. It's good. All right, see you guys later. Bye. Hello there, team. I have just finished Nothing But Shadows, which I think is book 4. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. And I thought this was a good one. I thought it was interesting. We got to learn a lot about the characters from the Chain of Gold series, which is excellent because I've obviously never read anything about them before. We got a little introduction to James in the Bane Chronicles, and that is it. We've never really had any introduction to him before, and we won't get introductions to any of the other characters probably until Chain of Gold. So it's quite interesting to see that, and I really did enjoy it. I think there were a few parts where I got a little bit like, oh, just get to the point. But for the most part, I really thought it was a good introduction to these characters. Like I said, in Bane Chronicles, we only got introduced to James, and that was it. Whereas in this one, we got introduced to Matthew, Thomas. Who are the other characters? I don't even remember. I know there's someone called Matthew. I know there's someone called Thomas. Alistair. We got introduced to him. There's another Lightwood. Christopher? Is that it? Christopher? We got introduced to these characters anyway. And it was quite nice because we got a bit of a throwback to some of the Infernal Devices characters and their, well, what they've been up to, just through the eyes of their children. That was quite nice to see. I really thought that was quite cute. But I'm excited to read Chain of Gold now that I've got this, now that I've read this story. I'm actually hoping this format doesn't continue too often, because the first 2 stories were Simon stories, then we got a Tessa and Will story, and then we got the Chain of Gold stories. And it seems like this is Shadowhunter Academy, and it's about Simon. And Simon's just kind of being used as a device to throw back to other characters, which I like. Do not get me wrong, I think that's really interesting because Simon just learning about stuff could get a bit boring, and that was actually quite a concern. But I do like that. I just hope that they get spread out a bit more, because at the minute we've had 2 Simon, one after the other, and then we've had 2 kind of flashback stories, and I would like them to kind of be spread out a bit so you can get a bit of Simon and we're continuing on his journey, and then we get a bit of the flashbacks to other things, rather than have it be quite compact of, yeah, pretty much Simon's never in this story apart from the start at the end and someone's telling it him. I'd like a bit of a good combination, a good mix. So that's my hope for the future one. I don't really know what's coming next. I know it's called The Evil We Love, which is Cassandra Clare and Robin Wasserman. And I don't really know much, but on like this page where they have all the illustrations and things like that, it's a quote from the story. They've just mentioned Michael. Now, the only Michael I am aware of, other than there was a Michael that's just been mentioned in Chain of Gold, but he's not really an important character as far as I'm aware. The only other Michael I'm aware of is Michael Wayland, which gives me the belief that this is going to be another flashback story, which is fine. I'm just interested to see how this goes and really how long this is going to continue, because I don't want it to continue on too much, you know. But anyway, I enjoyed that one. I'm going to give it a 4.5 because I really did like that. And I think the only thing that just kind of stopped it being that perfect thing for me is a few times I was just like, come on, just get to the point. Let me finish. But I'm excited to carry on. So I'll update you guys when I've read the next book. I'm looking forward to it. Hey guys, so I've just finished the most recent book, which is The Evil We Love. Now, I really enjoyed getting an insight into Robert Lightwood's backstory. I thought that was so interesting, so fun, because it really enhanced the world, and I loved that. I love seeing how much it enhanced it, because you got to see Robert and his time in the Circle. We all know I love a bit of the Circle. I want a story based on the Circle. And yeah, we haven't got that, and I want that. So I'm definitely wanting that. But we got to see Robert and his Parvati, who is Michael Wayland. We got to see their relationship and how that changed and developed. And we found out that Michael Wayland was actually in love with Robert Lightwood. And Robert obviously did not reciprocate his feelings. And he actually made Michael feel quite badly about it. Said how it changed the relationship, said that he found him disgusting for having these feelings. And we got to see how that situation really parallels his relationship with Alec, and I really enjoyed seeing that, because we all know that Alec and Robert have had such a conflicting relationship since the start of the series, and we always knew it was there, but seeing where it began, seeing where it originated, was really interesting, because you got to see how it affected, well, Robert, you got to see how it affected Michael, Alec, and I found that to be really fascinating, because I think that Robert, based off what the book was saying, Robert did not feel that way, but he felt as though if he didn't say it, then people would almost paint him with the same brush, which is not what he wanted. And at the time when it was, which I think was the 80s, it wasn't exactly the most accepted, and especially not in the Shadowhunter world, it's not accepted. So Robert really had to force himself to show hatred towards his best friend and Parabatai for that. And you got to see how his forced hatred kind of developed into how his relationship with Alec was. You got to see how he feared Alec's life would turn out based on how Robert's life nearly did, and how Michael's probably could have if people found out and if people knew. And I found that to be so interesting, because you got to see so much more of that relationship, and you got to see more of that character, because he wasn't really a character I was really interested in. But finding out more about him really enhanced the world for me, because you got to see more of that world, you got to see more of those characters, and you got to see really more of where Alec and Isabel really come from and the type of life they lived. And I find that really, really interesting. We also got a really good storyline with Simon and Isabel, and I love that. I love that relationship. But I found that to be really, really interesting. I thought it was a very good balance between flashback and present day scenes. I felt as though the present day scenes were really there, and that's what I said I really wanted. I said I didn't want the flashback scenes to kind of be pretty much the entire book, but I didn't mind how they came into this one, because it was very much 50-50 split, and I thought that was excellent. Sorry for all the camera movements, by the way. You're handheld, and I'm just moving you to where I feel more comfortable. But I really thought that was a nice 50-50 split. I was very happy with it. And it was a great story. Overall, I think I would give that story a 4.5 out of 5. I think my only, not really critique, it was perfect, essentially, but my only critique of the story as a whole is that it was one of the longer stories, which meant there was no breaks per chapter. So I was reading like 80 pages, 90 pages, full, with no space for breaks, and I didn't really like that. So it just kind of took away the 5-star feeling, because there were times where I was like, I'm done now, I need a break, and I didn't really love feeling that way. But the next story is Pale Kings and Princes by Cassandra Clare and Robin Wasserman. I do not know what this story is about, but I know from the artwork that it features... Who's it feature? Helen Blackthorne. Helen is the sister of Julian Blackthorne and Mark Blackthorne, who is also the wife or fiance, I can't remember if they were married by the end of the book, of Aileen Penhallow. I'm just naming names now. Basically, Helen is the sister of the main character in the Dark Artificers series. So I think that'll be really interesting, because I feel as though we'll definitely get an introduction to more of those characters. I'm not sure if Helen is in the Dark Artificers. It'd be quite interesting to see if she is. But I just think it'd be really nice to see those characters, because we've seen characters from Chain of Gold. We've seen characters from the Mortal Instruments. We've seen characters from the Infernal Devices. Dark Artificers needed a bit of an input, and I'm really excited to see that. But other than that, I don't really know anything else, so I will update you guys when I finish the next story. See you soon. And I've just finished Pale Kings and Princes. I thought that was okay. I thought that was a good one. I'm a bit conflicted. We got to see how life had changed for Aileen and Helen, and I thought that was really interesting. We got to see like a progression in their life, and almost like this is what happened after the Mortal Instruments finished and things like that, and I thought that was really interesting and really fun. But I thought that was quite sad. You really got to see the difference between those who thought fairies were untrustworthy and those that thought all fairies shouldn't be blamed for the acts of one. And I really like seeing that difference. I think that really had a strong message there. And you got to see so much. That was interesting. I don't really even know what to say about this one. It's left me a bit conflicted because I thought it was a good story. I thought it was interesting. I don't necessarily think it added anything to my experience. I think it's definitely added something to the characters, but I don't think it's added anything to my experience of reading the books. Maybe that will change as we enter into the Dark Artifices, because obviously this featured Helen Blackthorne, mentions of Mark, and the implications of those being half fairy, half Shadowhunter. So maybe that'll have an impact on that, but at the moment, good story. Definitely added an extra dimension to the Blackthorne family, but it didn't really have that big of an emotional impact on me and my reading experience. So I'm going to give that one a 3.5 because I do think it was quite a good story. I think it was very borderline 4. I just wish it had a bit more of an impact on me. But that was really interesting, and I'm glad I read it. I'm not disappointed at all. I'm glad. Now, the next story is called Bitter of Tongue, and that is Cassandra Clare and Sarah Reese Brennan again. So I will just update you guys when I finish that one. And I'm very interested to see what's next. I'm definitely intrigued. Sure, Bitter of Tongue was an excellent story. We got to see more of the fairies, which we all know I love. I think the fairies are the most interesting fantasy type character. I don't know if fairies are exactly the same everywhere. I don't read a lot of fantasy, you can probably tell. But I love the fact that fairies can't lie and therefore they use a lot of trickster methods. I just find them so fascinating. So this story being based around those people, I'm like, yes, sign me up for that. Mwah, perfect. And then we got a bit of an introduction again to Mark Blackthorne after everything, after the events of City of Heavenly Fire, and we lost him, and we got to see what he's been up to, and it was really upsetting. That was a really emotional story for Mark, knowing he's not going to be rescued, and then the rest of the Blackthorns having to deal with the fact he's not there. Julian having to become a dad to all of his siblings because Helen's not there anymore either. And then Helen's wedding and her emotions over the fact that Simon found Mark, and Mark gave Helen a message through Simon. It was an emotional story, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this. This is a 5-star story. Excellent, made me happy, added so much to the story because you really got a bit of in-depth knowledge on the Blackthorns, which kind of gives me a bit of a excitement for the Dark Artifices now, because I'll be reading Lady Midnight this month and I'm very ready for it. I'm really excited, and yeah, it's just made me really happy. So I'm really happy with that. I'm getting very tired. I'm trying to finish all of these books today. Because I have a busy weekend, so I want ideally to finish these today. I've got 3 more stories left, so it's not impossible. It's unlikely, but it's not impossible. So I'm just going to jump straight in, absolutely shattered. So I'm going to take a 10-minute break actually, and then I'm going to jump straight into the next story, which is, don't know, The Fiery Trial. Ooh, that sounds good. And that's Cassandra Clare and Maureen Johnson. So I don't really know what that's about. I say that every time. I've absolutely no idea. Oh, but I've just seen a mention of Clary. So Clary's in this one, which I absolutely love. And yeah. Oh no. My Simon bookmark fell. Look at that. How precious is this? Isn't that cute? So yeah, I'll get into it in a minute. Just having a short break. I will update you. Yes, 5-star read. Happy. Alrighty, so I just finished The Fiery Trial. And that was the best one yet. That has to be the best story I've read so far. I thought that was so good. We got Parabatai, we got Clary and Simon, we got what they called. We got Julian and Emma. We got everything. We got a fantasy land where it was like a dream and a mirage and stuff happened. Perfect. We got a bit of Magnus. We got Jem. We got all of our favourite characters. Some of the favourite stories of these strange dreamlands where something happens and you have to figure out the truth. Loved it. Excellent. 5 out of 5 stars. One of my favourites, if not my favourite story so far in this book. Loved it. That was a very short review, but that is exactly how I feel. It was my favourite. I really did like it. Now, I've only got 2 left. I have the next one, which is Born to Endless Night, which is Cassandra Clare and Sarah Rees Brennan. I think it's going to be quite hard, really, to top that last one. I'm very interested to see, because it ended off saying Simon and Clary can be parabatai. I'm very interested to see whether this is what's going to happen. Whether does Simon need to ascend before he becomes a parabatai? But still, there's only 2 stories left. This is all about Shadowhunter Academy. I don't know if Simon's going to be really in the Dark Artifices. I'm assuming the Mortal Instruments characters are going to be in there, but I assume they're going to be cameo roles. So something like Simon's graduation, I think, might happen here. Something like Simon's ascension, I would like to think it happens in this. And then Clary and Simon becoming parabatai. Like, is all this going to happen in here? Because there are only 2 stories left. That's what I'm thinking right now. But I'm intrigued to know. I've got one big story. Like, it is huge. Like, it's quite a big gap. So this is going to be the biggest story. So maybe things will happen here. I don't know. I'm intrigued, but I'm excited. So I will update you guys a little later on. Yeah, see you soon. So I just finished Born to Endless Night, and that was precious. That was beautiful. Magnus and Alec have a baby. The baby's a warlock. The warlock's called Max. Emotional overload. I love that. That was really cute. That was really emotional. Does this mean that in the Red Scrolls of Magic and the Lost Book of Light there's going to be a baby warlock? Please tell me that's going to happen. I need that in my life. Does that mean he's also going to appear in the Dark Artifices? Even as a cameo, I feel as though that's needed. Oh, this is setting me up now for a lot, and if it doesn't appear, I'll be really, really upset. I love that story. Amazing. 5 stars. Didn't expect to enjoy it as much because it was a long one. Like, really long, like 90 pages. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to like that. But I did. Loved it. Hooked me in. I am obsessed. I am obsessed. Right? I've only got 1 story left. 1 story left. But it is 1 a.m. So I'm going to finish this tomorrow morning. And then I will give you a full update on how I'm feeling. But I love that story. 5 star. Want more of that. And if Little Max don't appear in Red Scrolls of Magic and Lost Book of White, I am suing. Because if he doesn't, I need a novella with Magnus taking care of the baby. Because one of my favourite lines in that was the fact that it literally said, Magnus kept misplacing the baby. I was like, yes, thank you. I also loved that Robert and Maris were like proper grandparents and that they accepted the warlock. They didn't even care. It just meant there was like grandparents goo because they were obsessed. I'm obsessed. We're all obsessed. Life is good. I will chat to you guys when I have finished the final story and therefore finish the book. Until then, see you soon. And I've just finished Angels Twice Descending, which means I've just finished the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Angels Twice Descending was a very good ending. I don't really know what else I could have asked for from that. I gave it a 5 star, naturally. But it was emotional. You got to see what it meant for Simon to become a Shadowhunter. You got to see him get his memories back. And you got to see him kind of start this new life. And then you got the heartbreak of George dying, which I was not happy with. George Lovelace, right, is a beautiful character. I loved him. It was amazing seeing that brotherly relationship between him and Simon. Just for him to go and die. I weren't happy about that. That was really upsetting. That was very emotional. I was very mad. It hurt. But I really enjoyed the story, and I loved how it ended. Although I'm upset about George, right, I'm very happy that he got to go to the London Institute, because they will always accept a Lovelace. Even though he died, they buried him. And then the ghost of Jessamine took him and welcomed him to the family. That was perfection. Oh, I loved it. I thought it was perfect. I love them so much. Simon and Clary's Parabatai thing is going to happen soon, which is quite exciting. Will that happen in Lady Midnight or any of the Dark Artifices book? Or will the Dark Artifices start once that's already been completed and a bit after? Who knows? I'm intrigued to find out. That's the thing. I'm excited. So, let me just run you through my ratings for the short stories, and I will give you a full rundown. I'm looking for the thing. So the first book, Welcome to the Shadowhunter Academy, I gave a 3.5 stars. I thought it was a nice introduction, but I didn't feel as though I particularly loved it. I feel as though as the first story in there, it should have been the one to hook me in and make me desperate to read the rest. And it didn't. So I only gave that one a 3.5. Then the next one, which was The Lost Herondale, was a 4 star, because I originally gave it a 4.5 and then dropped it down because I read a 5 star and I was like, I know what a 5 star is now. But it was good. I wasn't entirely satisfied with the ending. I love the story, but I wasn't satisfied. I feel as though it raised more questions than it answered, and I didn't really like that. I hate open endings. I want a definitive answer to end off with, and it didn't really give me that. The third one, The Whitechapel Fiend, loved it. Absolute 5 star. We got Jack the Ripper content. We got the Infernal Devices content. What is not to love? That was so good. And then Nothing But Shadows, very interesting. A nice little introduction to the Chain of Gold gang again. I'm very interested to see how that develops, which I gave a 4.5 star. Yeah, 4.5 star. It was very, very good, that one. Then The Evil We Love. Yeah, I gave that a 4.5. Thought that was excellent. That was a Robert Lightwood and the Circle story. Love a bit of the Circle. Love seeing more of Robert Lightwood. Love seeing a bit more about how his character kind of developed and how he is now. And then Pale Kings and Princes, didn't love that much. Dropped that right back down to a 3.5. It was good. Like, it was still 3.5 worthy, but in terms of all of the stories I'd read, probably one of the weakest. I just didn't really care. Like, I feel as though it added a nice little extra tidbit to the Blackthorns, but not really for me. Then Bitter of Tongue, really enjoyed actually. Gave that a 5 star. Gave me a lot of emotional impact. Was thoroughly enjoyable. Got some fairy content. Yeah, excellent. I like that one. The Fiery Trial, I think. Right, these last three. The Fiery Trial, which was the Simon and Clary Parabatai, and then Born to Endless Night, which was the Malik Baby, and then Angels Twice Descending, which I've just discussed, which was Simon's Ascension. All of those were 5 stars. I feel as though one of them definitely is my favourite, and I'm just trying to decide which one that is. I don't think it'd be Angels Twice Descending. I really enjoyed it, but the Fiery Trial, I just keep thinking about it. The Fiery Trial was utter perfection. That is the one I think I will read again and again and again. So I think the Fiery Trial was actually my favourite story. I love the Malik and the baby one. I thought that was cute. I thought it was emotional, very equal parts funny and emotional. Plus, it really gave a little extra thing to to Magnus and Alec. You really got to see their relationship develop because they're now having a baby, which is great. And I hope to see that continue. So that was a lovely little setup for what I hope will continue in the Red Scrolls of Magic, and maybe even Dark Artificers. I don't know. But the Fiery Trial was my favourite. I love seeing that Parabatai bond. I loved that entire story. There was nothing I could fault about it. But after adding that up, all of those scores for each individual story gave me a total of 45 out of a possible 50, which is excellent. And then divide that by 10 to get the mean, and I got 4.5. So I give that a 4.5. That is my star rating, 4.5. Love the book. I think that sounds right. I had a lot of 5-star reads in this book, and I had some very good 4.5s and 4s, and then only like 2 3.5s, which is still a really good rating. Like, I didn't dislike any of the stories. I just liked some less. But I really did enjoy all of them. So I'm really happy with my read. And yeah, I'm satisfied. It was a big book, so I'm really glad I've got through it now. I'm really happy about it. But I'm going to round off here and say thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm excited to start the Dark Artificers. So if you have made it this far, you have obviously read The Mortal Instruments, The Infernal Devices, Bane Chronicles, Shadowhunter Codex. I'd hope you have. Otherwise, I've just spoiled a lot of those for you. Sorry, but it's always in the description. But moving on to the Dark Artificers. If you've read the Dark Artificers, I'm excited. Is there a favourite book in that trilogy? If you've not, I'm excited to see. And I hope I will see you soon when you guys have read it as well. And moving on to the Lady Midnight, I will be reading that literally. I think I'm picking it up next week. I'm really excited. Right. But that is it, guys. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you leave me a like and comment. Make sure you do leave me a comment if you can. If you don't really fancy leaving a comment, can you just leave me an emoji of some sort? Just so I know you've been here, because it's lovely to see who watches these videos in particular, because I know because they're spoiler filled, a lot of people can't watch them because they haven't read the books. So if you have been here, just leave me one of your favourite emojis so I know that you've been here, because I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
SafeMusicList.com. Royalty-free music for marketing and promotional videos.